Have you ever felt like life is slipping through your fingers? Like everything you've worked so hard to build is suddenly falling apart and rearranging itself in ways you never expected? Most of us panic when this happens. We try to force things back to the way they were. But what if the real problem isn't the change itself, but our resistance to it? What if the universe is simply guiding us towards something new, and we're the ones holding on to what's already past? In this video, we dive deep into the wisdom of Alan Watts and the Japanese concept of Yūgen, revealing a profound truth. Life isn't broken, it's constantly evolving. We're taught to believe that life should eventually settle down, that we should reach a place where everything, emotionally, financially, spiritually, falls into perfect harmony. But if you really observe life, you'll see it doesn't work like that. It's a dance. It's unpredictable. It's like the sea. Sometimes calm, sometimes stormy, but always moving. You might build a house, but storms will still come. You might fall in love, but people will still change. You might plan every detail, but the plan will eventually unravel into something else. And yet, when life shifts in ways we didn't expect, we often act surprised, like we've been wronged. We clench our fists, demand things return to what they were, as if life broke a promise it never made. But here's the truth. Life is like a river. It never stops moving. Seasons don't pause for our convenience. Breath doesn't stay frozen in time. The very design of life is change and impermanence. And the real source of our suffering is not the change itself. It's the resistance to it. So, are you ready to let go of control and embrace the flow of life? Stick around to discover how you can stop fighting the current and start moving with it. We keep trying to make permanent what was never meant to be permanent. We fall in love, and then we try to trap the moment like a butterfly under glass. We reach a state of clarity or happiness, and then we obsess over how to keep it, preserve it, store it like jam in a jar. But the more we hold on, the more it slips away. It's like trying to hold water in your hand. You grip it tighter, and you lose even more. Now, imagine what happens when life begins to shift. Your job no longer fits. The relationship that once felt electric now feels distant. Your health takes a turn. Your passions fade. The human mind panics. We scramble to rewind the tape, to fix it, to glue everything back into place. And in doing so, we miss the truth sitting quietly beneath it all. That change, however uncomfortable, however unwelcome, is not proof of failure. It's proof that you're alive, that life is still moving. But we've built an entire culture around pretending this isn't true, around chasing the illusion of permanence. Think about the way we speak. We say things like, "I've settled down, I've found my path," as if the point of life is to arrive at some final, unmoving position. But paths aren't meant to be found. They are meant to be walked, step after shifting step. And here's the rub. The more we try to lock life in place, the more disoriented we feel when it naturally flows in another direction. You see this in how we treat our identities too. We cling to titles, roles, beliefs, as if these things are our anchors in the storm. I'm a doctor, I'm a mother, I'm spiritual, I'm logical. But all of these are just costumes we wear in the play. Useful, yes, but not permanent. Because you are not a fixed thing. You are a process, a ripple, a verb pretending to be a noun. And until you see that, truly see it, not just as an idea, but as an experience, you will keep trying to hold on to something that cannot be held. So the next time the ground shifts beneath your feet and the life you've known begins to unspool, don't reach for the glue. Don't rush to rebuild the exact version of what once was. Sit in it. Notice how everything you thought was solid is dancing, because in that dance, in that very motion, there is something sacred, something ancient, something far wiser than our need to control it. And if you listen closely, beneath the noise of your own resistance, you'll hear it whisper, "This is not the end. This is life being life." There is a peculiar thing about the modern mind. It wants to know everything. It demands definitions, blueprints, clarity. We are taught that if something cannot be named, mapped, or measured, then it must be unimportant, or worse, non-existent. But in older cultures, particularly in the East, there was room for mystery, room for wonder, room for things not meant to be understood, only felt. And this is where we encounter the word Yūgen, an ancient Japanese term often mistranslated as subtle beauty. But it's far more than that. Yūgen is the feeling you get when you sense the vastness behind something small. It is the way mist curls through a mountain pass at dawn, the sound of distant thunder rolling through an open valley, the sudden ache in your chest when you hear a melody from your childhood. You cannot explain it. You cannot bottle it or sell it, but you know it when it arrives. And here's the thing. Yūgen is not an aesthetic reserved for art. It is a way of being, a way of noticing the parts of life that defy explanation. But our culture is terrified of what cannot be explained. We are raised to chase certainty, to have a 5-year plan, to map out relationships like flowcharts, to reduce every emotion, every experience to a diagnosis or a productivity tool. So, when life changes and we don't understand why, we panic. We assume something must be wrong. We don't say how mysterious. We say, what's wrong with me? What went wrong with this? What needs fixing? But perhaps the change isn't asking to be fixed. Perhaps it's inviting you into something deeper, something less visible, something soaked in Yūgen. Because mystery is not chaos. It is not the absence of meaning. It is the presence of meaning so rich, so layered, so delicately arranged that your thinking mind cannot hold it. Only your soul can. Yūgen reminds us that not everything in life was made for the spotlight. There are moments, precious trembling moments, meant only to be lived, not understood, not posted, not captured, not explained. And when life begins to shift, as it inevitably does, these are often the moments that come to greet us, not with answers, but with presence. You walk into a new chapter without knowing how it ends. A friendship changes shape, and you can't explain the distance. A dream you once chased no longer lights you up, and you have no replacement in sight. It's tempting to call these moments a crisis, but what if they're invitations? Yūgen doesn't demand that you know. It invites you to feel, to sense the currents beneath the surface, even if they have no name. You see, the Western idea is that light equals truth. What is illuminated, what is explained, what is made visible, that's what counts. But Yūgen says, no, no. The truth hides in shadow, in silence, in the things that stir your soul but escape your vocabulary. And isn't that what we long for? Not just certainty but beauty, not just clarity but wonder. You can't Google your way into meaning. You can't force purpose to declare itself like a headline. But you can notice. Notice how your heart softens at twilight, how the wind carries something that reminds you of someone you loved, and how the leaves fall with such grace, and you feel, for no rational reason at all, that everything is going to be okay. That's Yūgen. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you listen, you might realize that life doesn't always answer your questions, because it's asking you to live the question itself, to feel your way through, not figure it out. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? To let the mystery stay a mystery, to stop trying to solve your life, and instead begin to experience it, not with clenched fists, but with open hands. Not by forcing clarity, but by embracing the soft, sacred blur of things. Not by rushing to name what's next, but by standing still long enough to hear the quiet music of what's already here. Now, let's look at this strange thing we keep trying to do. Control life. We build routines, strategies, checklists. We manage calendars down to the minute. We create 10-year plans, 5-year forecasts, daily trackers for our moods, our steps, our water intake. We try to predict the behavior of markets, lovers, strangers, the weather, even ourselves, all in the name of this quiet hope that if we just get it right, nothing bad will happen again. But there's a problem. Life didn't come here to obey your rules. It isn't an obedient student sitting in neat rows. It is wild, unpredictable, musical, and maddeningly indifferent to your control panels. The harder you try to manage it all, the more life seems to laugh softly and rearrange the pieces when you're not looking. And the more frustrated you become, the more tightly you cling. You try harder, you hold firmer, you make contingency plans for your contingency plans, and still, things fall apart. The relationship you thought was forever dissolves without warning. The job you built your identity around becomes redundant. The version of yourself you spent years constructing starts to crack under the weight of its own expectations. And suddenly you realize, maybe for the first time, that despite all your strategies and systems, life refuses to be pinned down. You see, control is not power. It is fear wearing the mask of competence. We think we're being responsible when we try to control things. We say, I'm planning ahead, I'm just being prepared. But often what we're really saying is, I'm terrified. I'm trying to protect myself from the unknown. We believe that if we anticipate every possible outcome, we can somehow outsmart pain. We forget that pain isn't a mistake. It's part of the deal. You can't trick life into giving you only the pleasant parts. You can't negotiate with the tides. Now, this doesn't mean you shouldn't be thoughtful. This isn't a call to recklessness. But there is a difference between participating in life and trying to manage it like a business plan. We spend so much energy trying to control outcomes that we forget how to be in the moment we're actually living. We speak to someone we love, not to connect, but to steer the conversation toward our preferred narrative. We wake up in the morning, not to greet the mystery of a new day, but to conquer it. But what if life is not a problem to be solved? What if it's a dance? And what if the music changes halfway through? Would you keep trying to march to the original beat, rigid and unmoving? Or would you let go, feel your feet adjust, and keep dancing? We fear that if we loosen our grip, everything will fall apart. But maybe everything's falling apart because of how tight we're holding on. Look at nature. Trees bend in storms, rivers twist through stone, clouds drift without a plan. Nothing forces itself into permanence. Nothing resists the change. But we poor modern humans, we try to be exceptions. We try to outwit the universe. We try to control how we're perceived. We try to control what we feel. We try to control our partners, our parents, our future, even our own minds. It's exhausting, not just emotionally, but spiritually. Because deep down, we know we're holding on to something that doesn't want to be held. The tighter you grip the sand, the more it slips through your fingers. The more you try to preserve the exact moment of happiness, the quicker it dissolves into memory. And still, we try because letting go feels like surrender, and surrender feels like death. But maybe, just maybe, it's not the death of joy or meaning. Maybe it's only the death of the illusion that we were ever in control to begin with. The irony is, the moment you stop trying to control life is often the moment life starts to open up to you. Not because you've mastered it, but because you've made space for it. Because real power is not found in control, it's found in presence. In the ability to meet life as it is, not as you want it to be. And when things shift, when plans fall apart, when the tide turns, when the story changes mid-sentence, what matters is not how tightly you held on. What matters is whether you were awake enough to see what was becoming. Imagine you're floating in a river, not swimming, not fighting, just floating. The current takes you. You drift. You don't know exactly where you're going, but you know you're moving. You're not steering with paddles or shouting at the water to change direction. You are simply allowing. Now ask yourself this. Why does that image feel both peaceful and terrifying? Because most of us have been taught that surrender is weakness, that to let go means we've given up, that we've lost control, failed to manage, abandoned responsibility. But maybe we've misunderstood what surrender really is. Surrender is not waving a white flag and collapsing in defeat. It's not apathy, and it's certainly not indifference. It is presence. It is trust. It is the moment you stop forcing the path to go your way, and you begin to trust that the way itself has a rhythm, a logic, a wisdom beyond your understanding. You see, we fight so hard to make life conform to our idea of what it should be. We plot, we push, we resist, and all the while, life is whispering, "Stop paddling so hard. You're missing the view." But we don't hear it. We're too busy chasing outcomes, trying to make sense of everything, trying to speed up, to catch up, to get ahead. Yet the more we try to hurry life, the more we feel left behind, because we're never really with it. We treat life like a series of transactions. Give effort, get reward, do this, earn that, fix yourself, then be happy. But life isn't a transaction, it's a transformation. And transformation doesn't follow your schedule. There are seasons when nothing makes sense, when nothing grows, when nothing feels clear. But what if those seasons aren't mistakes? What if they are the wintering of the soul, the slow composting of old dreams, so something wilder, truer, can grow in their place? You don't control the timing of the blossom. You don't yell at a tree for taking too long to bloom. But somehow, you do this to yourself. You demand answers before they're ready to be known. You try to leap into a new chapter while the last one is still dissolving. But surrender says, wait, watch, let it unfold. Surrender is the art of noticing the invitation in discomfort. It is the quiet trust that when the plan dissolves, something deeper is trying to emerge, and your only job is to stay soft enough to receive it. But we don't like softness. We've been taught to be hard, to armor up, to be resilient, strong, unshaken. We think if we stay guarded, we'll be safe. But the armor we wear to protect ourselves from pain also keeps us from intimacy, from presence, from growth. Surrender doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care differently. It means you stop measuring your worth by how much control you have, and instead begin to measure it by how present you are to this breath, to this feeling, to this strange, exquisite moment you're alive in. When life shifts, and it always will, surrender is the decision to flow rather than force. It's the moment you exhale and say, I don't know where this is going, but I'm going with it. And it's not passive, it's deeply active. It takes courage to trust the unknown, to keep your heart open in the midst of uncertainty, to allow what wants to leave, to allow what wants to come. You might not know why something is happening, you might not even like it, but you begin to ask a different question, not, how do I change this? But, how do I meet this with grace? Because when you stop resisting the river, you start to feel carried, not by fate or luck or magic, but by life itself, by the intelligence that moves the stars, opens the flowers, and breathes you while you sleep. It's always been there, waiting, patient, kind. And when you stop fighting and start flowing, you don't disappear. You don't become powerless. You become free. So, here we are. Life has shifted, not once, but many times, and it will shift again. You've tried to hold it still, tried to name it, fix it, understand it, manage it. But somewhere in all that effort, maybe you forgot what life truly is. Not a puzzle to be solved, not a mountain to be conquered, not a script you're meant to memorize and perform perfectly, but a dance, a river, a piece of music that rises and falls and rises again. And the more you try to force it back into what it used to be, the more it resists, not to punish you, but to wake you, to remind you that the beauty is not in the control. It's in the letting go. It's in the Yūgen, the mysterious fleeting grace of this moment. It's in the ache of not knowing and the thrill of discovering. It's in the gentle art of surrender, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to trust the current. So when the next shift comes, when the tide turns, when the path dissolves, when the version of you once knew begins to blur, don't panic, don't force, pause, feel, flow, because you were never meant to cage the river. You were meant to move with it. And in that movement, in that flow, you will find not certainty, but something far more alive. Peace, presence, and the quiet, knowing that you're exactly where you need to be.